All right, let's dive in. Today we're headed to India. We're taking a look at Chapter 18, The History House, from Arundhati Roy's The God of Small Things.
It's a powerful chapter.
Yeah, and pretty intense. Be warned.
It's a great example of how Roy uses vivid imagery, especially from the natural world, to really heighten the impact of the events.
Right, so we start off with this group of policemen arriving at this rundown place called the History House. And they're all dressed up.
Meticulously.
Yeah, meticulously dressed. Their uniforms seem so, I don't know, out of place in this wild setting.
It's like she's highlighting this contrast between the order they represent and the chaos of the environment.
Exactly.
And then she lists all these positive qualities they're supposed to embody, right?
Yeah.
Politeness, obedience, loyalty, all that.
Yeah, you'd think they're Boy Scouts or something.
But then she hits us with that gut punch. Dark of heart, deadly purposed.
Ugh, yeah. It's chilling.
It's like a warning. You know something terrible is about to happen.
And as they're making their way to this history house, Roy pulls us into this incredible sensory experience. The sights, the sounds, the smells of the Indian landscape.
It's so vivid.
You could practically feel the humidity. She mentions millipedes crawling in their boots, dragonflies mating, even slouching anthills.
She doesn't just use these details for the scenery, though.
Right.
They create this sense of foreboding, almost like nature itself is holding its breath, anticipating the violence that's to come.
And then we get to the history house itself, this decaying structure filled with shadows and secrets.
Almost like a character itself, you know?
Yeah, it definitely has this presence, like it's seen a lot.
It embodies the weight of the past, all those things left unsaid, the injustices hidden within those walls.
And those bats, flying out at twilight and returning at dawn.
Bringing news of the world, as Roy puts it.
Spooky. Makes you wonder what those bats have seen.
And this is where things take a dark turn. The policemen find Velusa, who's described as spoiled Poe. He's sleeping on the veranda.
With two children, Esta and Rahel.
Yes. And their capture, despite all the meticulous planning by the police, is surprisingly anticlimactic.
Like Roy's highlighting the absurdity of it all this buildup, all this tension, and then the actual capture is almost, well, ordinary.
But that's what makes it even more disturbing. It's so matter-of-fact. And then the way she describes the beating...
Oh, it's brutal.
Graphic. She uses very specific language, detailing the injuries, the sounds.
She doesn't shy away from it at all.
And then there's this chilling comparison she makes.
Yeah, with those everyday actions.
Opening a bottle, shutting a tap, cracking a nail.
Such a jarring juxtaposition. I mean, how can she compare something so horrific to something so mundane?
It's like she's saying that violence can become so routine, so ingrained, that it loses its shock value. It becomes almost banal.
Which is a terrifying thought. And it makes you wonder why.
Right.
Why this level of violence? Is it personal? Or is there something more at play here?
This is where I think Roy's writing goes beyond just telling a story. She's making a statement about power, about society. She suggests that this violence isn't just about these individual policemen.
But something bigger.
Yeah, much bigger. She's talking about civilization's fear of nature, men's fear of women, power's fear of powerlessness, like this primal need to dominate, to control.
And this scene, she actually calls it
history in live performance. Meaning, it's not just an isolated event, it's a reflection of larger historical forces, of power dynamics, things that have been going on for generations.
And the children, Esta and Rahel, they're forced to watch all of this. It's heartbreaking to see how they react.
Each in their own way.
Yeah. Rahel tries to escape into this fantasy, pretending that it's not really Velutha being beaten, but his twin brother.
Esta, though, he's silent. He can't even find solace in make-believe.
It shows how trauma can affect children differently, right? Some try to escape, others are just paralyzed.
Exactly. And it makes you think about the long-term consequences of witnessing something so horrific at such a young age.
Absolutely. And then, after the violence is over, Roy throws in this other layer of absurdity.
What's that?
The policemen start taking things from the children.
Taking things.
Yeah. Like toys and other belongings.
It's so bizarre. These supposed upholders of law and order stealing from children?
It just shows how power can corrupt, right? They think they're above the rules.
And there's this one detail that stuck with me ever since I first read this chapter.
Tell me.
The forgotten wash. Frozen at 10 to 2.
Oh, that's right. What do you think Roy is trying to convey with that image?
To me, it symbolizes the distortion of time and justice. For Velutha and the children, time has stopped. They're frozen in that moment of trauma.
But for the policeman, life goes on. No consequences. They walk away with their pockets stuffed with toys.
Leaving a trail of destruction in their wake. It's a powerful indictment of how power often operates.
So you mentioned earlier that Velutha was described as a spoiled pea. Can you explain what that means in the context of the novel?
Sure, so in the world of the god of small things, Pooh refers to someone from the untouchable caste, which is the lowest rung of the Indian social hierarchy. And Velutha is spoiled, so to speak, because he doesn't conform to the expectations of his caste. He's skilled, intelligent, and he dares to, cross social boundaries.
So the violence inflicted on him isn't just about individual prejudice. It's about maintaining a system of control.
Exactly. It's about punishing those who challenge the status quo.
Those who dare to dream of something more.
Right. And for the children witnessing this, it's not just an act of violence. They're seeing the very structure of their world being reinforced in the most brutal way possible.
That ending, with the image of the policeman leaving with those stolen toys, and the children left behind with what Roy calls the god of loss. Man, it stays with you.
It's devastating. It speaks to the enduring impact of violence and injustice, how it can rob people of their innocence, their security, even their faith in humanity.
We've talked about the brutality of the violence, the societal forces at play, the impact on the children. But I'm curious about those bats. What role do you think they play in this chapter?
I think they add this whole other layer of complexity to our understanding of history and memory. They fly out into the world, gathering information, but ultimately they return to the darkness of the history house.
Like they carry the weight of the past with them.
But they can't share its secrets. They're observers, but not participants.
And remember, bats are blind.
Right. So even though they witness everything, they can't fully comprehend the darkness they inhabit.
Which makes me think about us, the readers. Our own ability to understand history, its impact on the present.
Are we, like the bats, blind to the full extent of the darkness that surrounds us? Are we able to truly learn from the past and prevent it from repeating?
Big questions. But I think that's what makes Roy's writing so powerful. She forces us to confront these uncomfortable truths.
It's not an easy read, but it's a necessary one.
This deep dive into the History House has been quite the journey.
It has.
We've explored the violence, the social dynamics, the impact on those children.
And we've just scratched the surface of the symbolism, like the bats and the house itself.
There's still so much to unpack, so much to discuss.
So much.
We'll dive deeper into the themes and implications of this chapter.
Right after this. When we think about this whole scene at the History House and all the themes that Roy's exploring in the novel, social injustice, prejudice, all of that, what do you think she's trying to tell us?
Well, she's not pulling any punches, that's for sure. It's like she's constantly reminding us that what happens on a personal level is always connected to the bigger picture.
Absolutely. And remember how she calls this scene history and live performance. Like, it's not just about these individual characters, it's about something much larger.
Right, like these forces of history, colonialism, the caste system, they're all playing out right there in that brutal encounter.
Exactly. It's like she's saying, this is what oppression looks like. This is how power maintains its grip on people.
And those children, Esta and Rahel, they're witnessing all of this, completely powerless to stop it.
And their innocence is shattered. The trauma of that experience, you have to wonder how it'll shape their lives moving forward.
It's a question that lingers throughout the novel, doesn't it? It makes you think about the long-term consequences of witnessing such violence, especially at such a young age.
Definitely. And speaking of things that linger, I keep coming back to the title of this chapter, The History House. What are your thoughts on that choice, given everything we've discussed?
Well, it's more than just a physical space, right?
Yeah.
It's like the house itself represents this whole idea of the past weighing on the present, all those secrets and injustices trapped within its walls, almost like it's haunted.
Totally. I see it as a metaphor for how the past just keeps coming back to haunt us, no matter how hard we try to forget.
And those bats flying in and out. It's like the news of the world keeps circulating, but does anything really change? Does it ever get any better?
It's almost like Roy is throwing that question back at us, the readers. Are we just gonna keep watching as history repeats itself? Or are we gonna do something to break the cycle?
That's a pretty heavy question to be asking, especially after experiencing such an intense chapter like this one. It can feel pretty overwhelming, like what can one person even do to change something so deeply rooted in society?
And yet I think that's exactly why this chapter and Roy's work in general is so important. She's not giving us easy answers or telling us what to think. But she's forcing us to confront these difficult questions, to really grapple with the uncomfortable realities of the world.
It's like she's saying, wake up, pay attention, Don't just be a bystander.
Right. And maybe that's the first step, right? Becoming aware,
Mm.
recognizing the problem. And then maybe from there, we can start to figure out what our role is in creating change.
So for you, what's the one key takeaway from the History House? What do you hope stays with the listener long after they finish this deep dive?
For me, it's the idea that our individual actions are never truly isolated. Everything we do, every choice we make, is connected to something bigger, to history, to society, to the systems that shape our lives. And we have a responsibility to recognize those connections, to understand how our actions impact others.
That's a powerful message, and one that definitely resonates with what we've been talking about today. It's been an intense but really thought-provoking journey into the History House.
One thing that's always struck me about this chapter, and really Roy's writing in general, is how she manages to portray even the most brutal characters with some complexity.
Yeah, like even those policemen,
Yeah.
as awful as their actions are, they're not just, I don't know, cardboard cutouts of evil.
Right, they're still human, flawed, shaped by the world they live in.
It makes it harder to just dismiss them as monsters.
Definitely. And I think that's intentional.
You think so?
Oh, yeah. I think Roy wants us to look beyond those easy judgments, to see the systems that create these kinds of people, these situations.
It's not about excusing their behavior, of course.
Of course not. But it's about understanding the bigger picture, the context.
Yeah, like how do we prevent this from happening again if we don't understand the root causes?
Right. And speaking of things that keep coming back, I keep thinking about that title, The History House.
Yeah, it's a powerful image, isn't it?
Definitely. It's more than just a setting. I think it represents this whole idea of how the past, it never really goes away.
It's always there, haunting us, shaping the present.
Exactly. All those secrets, those injustices, they're trapped within those walls.
Like ghosts.
Yeah, like ghosts that refuse to be silent.
And those bats, right, flying in and out, bringing news of the world. It's like this constant cycle the world keeps turning. But does anything really change?
That's the question, isn't it?
Is it even possible to break free from these patterns, from the violence, the injustice?
You can feel pretty hopeless sometimes.
Especially after a chapter like this, you're left with this feeling of, I don't know, despair almost.
And yet, Roy doesn't let us off the hook, does she?
Not at all.
She makes us confront those hard questions, the uncomfortable truths.
Even if we don't like the answers.
Because maybe, just maybe, in asking those questions, in facing that darkness, we can start to find a way forward.
So what do we do? Where do we go from here?
Well, for me, it starts with empathy.
Empathy.
Yeah. Trying to see the world through other people's eyes, understanding their experiences, even when they're different from our own.
That's not always easy.
No, it's not. But it's essential. Because without it, we risk becoming like those bats, blind to the suffering around us.
And complicit in the systems that perpetuate it.
But if we can cultivate empathy, then maybe we can start to dismantle those systems.
And create a world where violence and injustice aren't the norm, but the exception.
That's the hope anyway.
It's been a powerful journey, this deep dive into the History House.
Mm,
Intense, but also thought-provoking.
definitely.
It's a reminder that there's darkness in the world, but also that there's hope.
If we're willing to fight for it.
This is just one chapter, one small piece of a much larger story.
So if you're interested in exploring these themes further, I highly recommend checking out the full novel, The God of Small Things. Roy's writing is, well, you've heard it for yourselves.
Beautiful and devastating, all at the same time.
It'll stay with you long after you've finished reading.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into Arundhati Roy's world. And until next time, keep questioning, keep learning, and keep striving for a better world.